Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Goodness. War energy is in the air. More than ever before, beyond the military defense is civil defense against war becoming a priority for nations. Sweden citizens have been told to prepare for war. A booklet with a soldier in camouflage holding a machine gun with a fighter jet cheering through the sky in the background landed on the steps of many. In case of crisis or war, a booklet it's been prepared as the threat of attack from Russia escalates. So what is the government wanting from its citizens? If Sweden is attacked, everyone must do their part to defend Sweden's independence and our democracy. We build resilience every day. Together with our loved ones, colleagues, friends, and neighbors, it's what it wants. Although Civil Emergency Booklet for Swedish was produced during World War II and updated during Cold War, one message has been moved up in the middle of the booklet. If Sweden is attacked by another country, we will never give up. All information to the effect that resistance is to cease is false. For more than 2 centuries, Sweden maintained a policy of non-alignment to military. So why would they be releasing such a booklet, and what has changed since the last decision? Earlier this year, this country joined NATO and the booklet was produced in response. So, did it just stop with Sweden? Finland has also just published its own fresh advice online on preparing for incidents and crises. Unlike Sweden and Norway, the Finland government decided not to print a copy for every home, as it would cost millions and a digital version could be sufficient and can be updated when it needed. In which, under military conflict, how the government, the president would respond in the event of an armed attack, stressing the Finland's authorities are well prepared for self-defense. This is what's been said. Followed by 2.2 million paper copies were issued to each household in Norway, urging them to be prepared to manage on their own for a week in event of extreme weather, war, and other threats. And then, Denmark's emergency management agency mailed Danish people details of water, food, and medicine they would need to get through a crisis of 3 days, to be able to keep warm when it's cold, and to be able to manage without electricity. Risk of hybrid attack, which could, for example, disruption of electricity supplies, is a genuine threat, according to a Danish minister. From this to Germany. Yes, Germany is developing an app to help people locate the nearest bunker in the event of an attack, while German military briefs the companies on being ready for war. The German armed forces have initiated a series of meetings with industry officials to brief them on potential measures in the event of a war in Eastern Europe, advised on beefing up on security measures against possible acts of sabotage and cyber attacks, and developing alternative energy sources and acquiring diesel generators in case of power cuts. Also stressed our importance of workplace planning. 70% of all trucks on German roads are driven by Eastern Europeans. If there was a war, where will these people be? A German officer reportedly have asked. He also suggested for every 100 employees, train at least 5 additional truck drivers that you don't need. The meeting was part of the Operational Plan Deutschland, a 1,000-page classified strategy document detailing plans to prepare companies in various sectors, as well as civilian organizations for possible crisis and conflict scenarios. The document reportedly lists buildings and infrastructure facilities deemed crucial for military military purposes and outlines response plans for crisis and conflict situation, including potential Russian aggression on NATO's eastern flank, Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and dramatically raised security tensions across the Baltic region, prompting Finland and Sweden to abandon decades of non-alignment and join NATO. So, what NATO has to say on this? According to the NATO's defense plan, in the event of a conflict in East Europe, Germany would serve as a hub for tens of thousands of NATO soldiers who would need to be transported eastward along with military equipment, food, and medicine. Major shift in scenery comes after Joe Biden authorized Ukraine to use powerful long-range American weapons inside Russia, as North Korean troops deployed in support of Moscow's effort. Russia has deployed nearly 50,000 troops to Kursk, including 10,000 Northern Korean troops. According to the US, Russia is trying to take Kursk off the table as a potential bargaining chip for Ukrainians in any future peace talks, something that the US does not want to see. The idea is to help Ukraine hold on to Kursk as long as possible. Now, this is considered as a new phase in the war. The decision to allow the use of Army tactical missile system inside Russia had been under consideration for months. Some American officials had concerns about escalating the war, while others worried about dwindling stockpiles of the weapons. It is important to note Biden secretly approved the transfer of the long-range missiles for use inside Ukrainian territory. Missiles were then quickly included into the $300 million aid package. So do you want to look at the contribution of companies towards the war business? Lockheed Martin, considered as the world's largest defense contractor, produces approximately 500 missiles per year. I wonder what would happen to this world when such companies or profit-driven companies say, stop operation and we say no more. Will the world be a better place? It is evident there is a huge economic wheel that spins behind the screen of war. Fruits of the war are enjoyed by those who take part in keeping the wars alive. Will those ever walk away from the economic wheel? On the other side of the fence, Russia's procurement and use of North Korean ballistic missiles against Ukraine and Russia's attack on civil infrastructure in Ukraine has also been mentioned as a reason for Biden's new direction. And according to Pentagon, secrecy was in place in order to maintain operational security for Ukraine at their request. So does this make you wonder, are wars around the world played to make economy run? Or is there a concern about national security? Not just with the use of long-distance missiles, the game is expected to change from January 20th. Donald Trump and Russia association goes back to the former president's first run for the presidency in 2016, and accusations that the Russia worked to help him get into the White House that year. Some say they're scared of Trump in Russia, they're worried about Trump in Europe, because they know he actually means what he says. There is a speculation Trump would start negotiations with the Kremlin, Ukraine, and European stakeholders when he assumes power with an eye towards achieving a peaceful settlement. And it may look like this: a current line of demarcation between Russia and Ukraine that becomes as a demilitarized zone. Ukraine retains its independent sovereignty. Russia gets the guarantee of neutrality from Ukraine. It doesn't join NATO. It doesn't join some of these allied institutions. This is what the ideal ultimately going to look like, as some say. If Washington helped Ukraine to take control of Crimea, which Russia captured in 2014, will Russia like it? Will it create another set of conflict? So what is the present US government and its allies working on? At present, the US and its allies have been working to ensure that Ukraine has what it needs through the end of 2025 as the way to Trump-proof the US security aid. President-elect Donald Trump has repeatedly claimed that the Ukraine-Russia war would not have started if he had been a commander-in-chief. Now, time to tell whether the new president of the United States would have a different stance to his predecessor or it's merely a political stunt. But here is the important part. Europe's geopolitical environment is deteriorating, and conflicts and crises are multiplying on its doorstep, from Ukraine to the Middle East via South Caucasus and Horn of Africa or the Sahel. Not forgetting further afield, but with major potential consequences for Europe's economies, and raising tensions in the South China Sea. All of this against a backdrop where the future of US commitment to European security is becoming much more uncertain. Political observers believe Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine is an existential threat to the European Union. If Vladimir Putin's Russia were to win in Ukraine, it would inevitably pursue its imperial policy against other neighbors, particularly in Europe. They have already seen the effects of this aggressively in policy-wise in Georgia and Moldova. In Georgia, 16 years since Russia invaded Georgia. To this day, Russia continues to occupy 20% of Georgia's territory, including by claiming the transfer of strategically important lands in Hasa to Russia. Where in Moldova, Moscow's approach to Moldova is to play for the time and keep the country in geopolitical limbo by stoking internal divisions, stalling reforms, and fueling disenchantment with the pro-European cause. Approximately about 1,500 Russian troops stationed in Moldova's breakaway region of Transnistria to open a new front against Ukraine, destabilizing Moldova's pro-Western cause in the process. Moscow has routinely criticized Moldova's current pro-European leadership as Western puppets, which deceitful policies risk turning the country into the next Ukraine, according to the Russian foreign minister. Given all of the above and more, European countries now believe if they fail to help Ukraine defend its sovereignty, the entire rule-based world order that we have sought to promote globally will be brought down. Andrius Kalibilis, the European Union Commissioner for Defense, said that if defense ministers and the NATO commanders agree that Vladimir Putin could be ready for confrontation with NATO and the EU in 6 to 8 years. Estonia's Foreign Intelligence Service has warned NATO could face a Soviet-style mass army in the next decade. If Russia successfully reforms its military, the army would be technologically inferior to NATO's forces. In areas other than electronic warfare, the long-range strikes also said to be a threat. But its military potential would be significant. Serbian President Alexander Vučić said the NATO was not ready now. They're not ready now for a possible war with Russia, but that they will be ready in the future. They're already preparing for the conflict with the Russian Federation and are preparing much faster than some people would like to see in every sense, he told a Serbian television. We know this from military preparations. We know how they are being conducted. And I want to tell you, they are preparing for a military conflict, he further said. The 3 Baltic states of Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia signed an agreement this year to beef up protection along their land borders with Russia and Belarus. So, Lithuania's defense minister said that it had set up a blockade on the near bridge, the Lithuanian border settlement that connects the NATO country with Kaliningrad. It has set up mines and other defenses like dragon's teeth against tanks and armored vehicles. Lithuania's neighbor to the north, Latvia, has put similar defenses in place. Latvian government has spent around $318 million, and the plan to fund or funneled into building up defenses on its eastern border with Russia over the next 5 years. There will be outposts of support personnel, reinforced structures, anti-tank trenches, and storage dumps for ammunition and mines. Poland has started construction of what is called as a heat shield, costing over $2.5 million and described as the largest operation to strengthen Poland's eastern border, NATO's eastern flank since 1945. Hungary defense minister said that Budapest will place an air defense system in the northeastern region of the country. We will trust that there will be a peace as soon as possible. Only person probably spoke or mentioned a word of peace, though diplomacy instead of the military solution. However, to prepare for all possibilities, I ordered the recently purchased air control and air defense system and the capabilities built on them to be installed in the Northeast. So, what does NATO have to say on all of this? NATO is trying to prepare for both scenarios: an all-out war and less obvious technique designed to undermine stability in the alliance member countries. Across Europe, NATO is now battling to raise defense spending up and beyond the 2% of the GDP requested, but not enforced by the alliance. Many countries have historically fallen far short of this benchmark in the decades since the end of Cold War. NATO's top military officials have said that businesses need to be prepared for a wartime scenario and adjust their production and distribution lines accordingly. While it may be the military who wins the battle, it's the economies that win wars. Are all of the Europe preparing as a unified force against the enemy? While Poland and the Baltic states, Finland and Sweden, as well as the Romania, which borders the western Ukraine, have significantly upped defense investment. However, Western Europe is lagging behind. It is a coincidence that the greatest increase in defense spending in NATO are coming from those closer to Russia, one official said. Behind NATO's eastern flank, other allies are acting with less urgency and have proven far less willing to increase investment at the same level. The head of the British Armed Forces conceded in November that the UK was in a slightly weaker position than many countries closer to Russian soil. We don't have some of the civil aspects or planning aspects that other countries within NATO have as part of their traditions. According to the British Army head, Western European countries are taking some meaningful steps. Countries in the alliance are looking at how to improve NATO's integrated air and missile defense capabilities, pulling lessons from Russia's hammering of Ukraine. The 18th editions of the Global Peace Index, produced by the Australia-based Institute for Economics and Peace, warned the world was at a crossroads, with the global number of conflicts reaching 56, the most since World War II. 97 countries deteriorated in peacefulness in 2024, more than any year since the inception of the report in 2008. Wars have also become more international, with 92 countries involved in conflicts outside their borders, the most since the GBI began recording peacefulness. So, increasing complexity and the growing internationalization of conflict reduce the likelihood of achieving a lasting solution. Armed conflicts is also changing as a result of military technology and increasing geopolitical competitions. Risk of using drone as a warfare technology made it easier for non-state groups or smaller and less powerful states to wage conflict. Human cost from international conflicts is reaching a highest level. If the same rate continues till the end of the year, early into the next year, it would be the highest number of conflict deaths since the Rwandan genocide in 1994. I hope you remember it's estimated about 500,000 to 800,000 may have been killed in that genocide. So, given the concern and risk, will there be a leader, a state, or the power of the people will lead the humanity towards a peace resolution? Who would bell the cat? That's the question. Who would bell the cat? With that, I will leave you here. Until then, you look after yourself. I will meet you in another episode of Goodness. Thank you.
Why did they let only us go, Mr. Anu?
Because you are tourists, madam. This is the place that King Ravana lived and he is also buried. One day he will wake up and save Sri Lanka.
Like it?
Love it.
There we go. Thank you for spending 5 years of your life with me.
To us.
Mr. Andrew, we got robbed. Where were you?
You sure it's them, Kishan?
ജനൽ ശരിക്കും അടച്ചായിരുന്നില്ലേ?
Pend out.
We are not safe here, sir.
Don't go there, sir. They will kill you.
Kill who?
Kill you, me, madam, all.
How can you be so happy, Amma?
You want me to be unhappy?
Do you think when women face problems, they cry and hope for a man to rescue them?
Aren't we also responsible?
How are we responsible for it?
This is human life. Doesn't it have any value? Andrew, now might be a good time for Ravana to wake up from his slumber and save Lanka. Like.